Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our session today, The Power of the Pitch, How to 10x Your Nonprofit's Impact in 2026 Without Spending a Dollar More. If you are just joining us, welcome. We're very excited to have you on. We're going to go ahead and get started very shortly, but if you are just joining, please go ahead and drop a hello in the chat box. We'd love to see who we have on, your organization, where you're joining from. We will be getting started shortly. All right. Do have a few of you saying hello. We'll go ahead and get started now because we are at the top of the hour. So we want to make sure that we get the full hour because we have a ton of great content to go through. Today's session is going to be recorded. So you're going to receive a copy of the PowerPoint slides as well as a recorded version of the actual webinar itself. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to The Power of the Pitch, How to 10x Your Nonprofit's Impact in 2026 Without Spending a Dollar More. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panel. Haley, do we have you there?
I am here.
Awesome. First, but I'll go ahead and introduce Haley Evans, who is the founder and creator of the Epic Storytelling app, best-selling author, and award-winning marketing strategist. Thanks for being here today, Haley.
Thanks for having me.
And we have David Blyer, who is our co-founder, president, and CEO of Ariva. Hey, David.
Well, Gabby, thanks for putting this together and having Haley on as our special guest and Chris Fink on as our CEO from Ariva. And I just want to thank the audience for attending today. And hopefully you'll get a lot out of it.
Thanks, David. And we have Chris Fink, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Ariva. Thanks for being here today, Chris.
Well, thank you, Gabby. Thanks, Haley, for being here, and you too, David.
And my name is Gabriella Salemi. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Ariva, and I'll be your moderator for the session. All right, so we wanted to go ahead and get started with some polls. We would love to know, how confident are you in your organization's core pitch or message? So you have a few options: very confident, it's clear and consistent; somewhat confident, but it needs refining; it varies by audience or channel; not confident, we struggle to articulate it; we don't really have one / are trying to still figure it out. Let a few more responses come in. All right, so looking at the results, it seems that the majority, it's close, 35, are somewhat confident, but it needs refining. 33% say it varies by audience or channel. 24% are very confident in their messaging. 8% are not confident. And this is good. We have 0% of people who don't have a core pitch or messaging, which is great to see. Going to our next poll, we would like to know which marketing message tends to perform best for you today. And you can select multiple of these. So if your messaging contains impact stories and outcomes, does that really resonate with your audience? Are you seeing a lot of success there? Urgent appeals and deadlines, personal stories and testimonials, event invites, information on programs, data and statistics about our impact. Not sure, we don't track this. Okay. Let's go ahead and we'll look at the results. So 72% of you are having success with impact stories and outcomes, 60% personal stories and testimonials, 24% urgent appeals and deadlines, 23% data and statistics about impact, 17% event invites, information on programs, and 12% are not sure / we don't track this. All right, and then our next question, what is the biggest challenge with marketing and messaging right now? And this one you can select multiple from as two. So clearly articulating our value and impact, standing out in a crowded space, getting people to take action, aligning messaging with fundraising goals, measuring what's actually working, keeping up with consistent messaging across multiple channels, segmenting communications, accurate contact information, or maybe it's all of the above. And if you're having trouble seeing all the options for the poll, you can scroll down in it. Sometimes if there's too many options, it goes down and it looks like it cuts off, but you just got to scroll in it. All right, so looking at our results here, it seems the majority is getting people to take action. Standing out in a crowded space was also a big one. A few of you clearly articulating our value and impact, measuring what's actually working, keeping up with consistent messaging across multiple channels, 12% all of the above. I feel that. And aligning messaging with fundraising goals, accurate contact information, that's a big one, and segmenting communications. Well, thank you all. We're going to have a few more polls coming up throughout the session, but I will pass it over to our panel.
Right. Well, I'll go ahead and get started. And it's really interesting and all these messagings. And I love doing polls because it really does help. And I think you'll hear a lot more from Haley because she is truly an expert and we love bringing these type of experts. But I think sort of if I would really filter a lot of the responses here, I believe one thing, and one size fits all does not work anymore. And I think I know a lot of people are changing that. I know I've talked to a lot. Sometimes it's very challenging, but the evidence is really a telling sign because in the most recent Giving USA report and looking at the results, especially from this year's report, what we see most and some of the biggest challenges that the nonprofits are facing today, it's just being reinforced, and it kind of narrows it down to three areas, right? And you can see results from this. It's either the decline in donor acquisition, the decline in donor engagement, or retention rates, and I hear a lot about that. So I think that's just evident what's going on. And when you look at the current landscape today about philanthropy, data does speak volumes, and it tells a powerful story. And honestly, it tells an urgent one as well. These are nationwide, but the average donor retention rate is just 45%. And I hate to say just 45%, but it is. And even more striking, only 19% of first-time donors give again. And you wonder why. At the same time, 53% of nonprofits say donor acquisition is one of their top three challenges, and not just their one, but top three challenges. We're also seeing a decline in it's approximately 4.7% in charitable giving dollars when adjusted for inflation. This means organizations they're working a lot harder to raise the same amount of money. I mean, and that's really what's going on. And there's still a tremendous opportunity out here. Individuals continue to drive philanthropy, making up 66% of all charitable giving in the US. And this was in 2024. So, it tells us simply a few things. Success isn't about doing more. It's about connecting with the right people at the right time. And Haley, I'm going to love you for a lot of this. It's about the right messaging, right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
really what it is. And you may be sending a lot of things out, but like in the polls here, you're not getting maybe the actions. And again, that's exactly what today's webinar is all about. How you can strengthen your messaging, how you can strengthen your strategy, how you can form deeper donor relations, and really set organizations up, your organizations up for long-term success in this 2026 new year.
Yeah. Yeah, well said, David. And like you said, I mean, these stats are sobering, but they are symptoms of a bigger challenge, right? We all face in the nonprofit world is donor connection. And like you said, Haley's going to definitely help us on how to be messaging correctly to really make those connections. But many donors, they give once, they feel good about it, and then they never hear from the organization again, really in a meaningful way, because they don't see their impact. They don't feel part of the story. And when people don't feel connected, they just move on. They don't give, right? So how do we change that, right? We have to be intentional about how we communicate and what we say to our constituents, it based off how they're affiliated with our organization, more importantly. So understanding how each person is affiliated with the organization, not just through donations, but in other ways, and making sure that messaging reflects that is incredibly important. But also telling specific impactful stories to your donors. Don't just share outcomes. Donors, they want to know the difference they make, not just the totals you raise for the year or clients you served, et cetera. And then you also have to really, like I said, just a one size fits all won't acknowledgement won't work. Speak to your donors based on the relationships they have with you, whether they're first time givers or lifelong supporters, right? And show gratitude early and often. We'll talk about the timeliness of acknowledgement, which is an issue that we see all the time. And stewardship, donor stewardship is not something that you do after December 31st, and then stop. It starts the moment someone gives, and it should go on for the lifetime of that donor, right? So if you can make every donor feel seen, valued, part of something bigger, your retention and your acquisition, your fundraising results will change dramatically. And I think we all know at this point that donor acquisition is expensive. It's expensive to acquire a new donor. So to go through all that effort to get a new donor and then to not really take that second step, which is to maintain that donor, is costly mistake.
Hey there, I'm Haley Evans with Epic Impact, and I want to know a little bit more about your storytelling. So I put the 3 answers that I most commonly receive when I am either doing a workshop or a presentation. Number 1, I struggle to put my story into words that connect. Number 2, I don't know which stories will move my audience. We're going to fix that today. And then the third one is I'm missing opportunities because my message isn't clear. So I want to ask you, put in the chat box, what do you think makes for a great story? Compelling detail is good. Think about the last really great story you remember. What was in it that made it so memorable? Relatability, authenticity, connect to the audience, emotional connection. Yeah, personal connection. Yes, very good. Emotion. So I see that emotion a lot. Tugging at the heartstrings. Yeah, those are all really great answers. So there's 5 key components that make up a really great story. Number 1, you've got your relatable character. Number 2, you have genuine emotion. Y'all hit that one on the head for sure. Genuine emotion. Number 3, you've got specific details. Specific details. Don't be vague, be very specific. Number 4, which most people forget this, is a moment in time. Where did the moment of transformation take place? Share that in your story because that is a powerful piece. And then number 5, what could number 5 be? What do we want them to do after we tell them the story? Okay, don't forget your call to action. There you go, call to action, Lisa says. So make sure that you always have a next step. And so great. All right, so you know the 5 pieces now. What is the one word that cuts through all the noise that might not make up a great story? What is one word that you can think of that would describe how it cuts through the noise? You. Good. Anything else? It's a tough one. Change. It's a tough one. Relatable. Now together. Impact. Close. Okay. So the one word, I've been doing this for a lot of years, and only a couple times has someone guessed it. The word is clarity. Okay, we've got to get clear on what our message is so that we can communicate that value and the impact to those around us. So clarity, we'll start with clarity. And so I'll see you back in a few moments and we'll talk about the 4 stories that every nonprofit should know.
All right. Thanks, Haley. Before Haley really gets into the details of messaging and communication, I'll just start real quickly with one slide about how really messaging marketing begins with data. Gabby, you know this very well. Gabby, our director of marketing, spends a lot of time keeping clean, actionable data for us in our marketing efforts. And it's a constant, I don't say struggle, but it's an effort that you have to really be attentive to. We just had a lot of clients work with us over the past month or two on their year-end campaigns, and clean data, actionable data, relevant data is an issue. And if you aren't spending time on maintaining that database of your constituents, of your donors in an accurate and relevant way, it makes it very hard to communicate with them based off how they're affiliated with your organization, especially if you've got disparate databases, systems, and honestly, not clean data. Your data's gone through several different people. When you pull data, it doesn't seem to be accurate. And you don't want to wait till the 11th hour, right? When you're pulling that mailing list from 4 different databases and deduplicating them and cleaning up the bad addresses. And uh, I saw a lot of that over the past few months, and I want to spare you that pain and give you a little lecture on keeping your database clean. And there's different ways to do that through deduplication tools that we have built into our system, for example, data entry. Rules and procedures that you can implement that if you want more information on, you can ask Gabby and connect with me, and I'll give you some tips on that. But really, you want to be aligned with marketing development teams so that you're attracting the data you need to keep track of in an accurate way, so you can segment and message to your constituents in a clear and accurate, measurable way, right? And then also when you really are thinking about setting goals for your fundraising strategy for this year, you want to take time to reflect on last year's efforts, right, and their performance, and analyzing the revenue expenses ROI and donor follow through. That will help you identify what to improve, what you can eliminate, and what you want to repeat, right, for greater impact this year. So you want to take a look in the rearview mirror right now, see what the results were, and that will also help you set clear fundraising and marketing goals and realistic goals for this year, right? Determine this year's goals based on past efforts, set a fundraising goal that's tied to the marketing campaign that's slightly higher, make it a stretch for you versus last year, right? But still within your grasp. Craft a compelling case for support of your organization for this year. A case for support tells donors why you need their help and what their donations will achieve. It forms the basis of all of your appeals, and Haley will get into this in a much more detailed way. And then build your case for support around individual stories and compelling examples, right, of how your nonprofits are making impact. Some of the comments earlier we're talking about that authenticity in your messaging and specific stories of impact to put a face to your appeal and generate empathy for your cause, right? But let's let Haley really delve into this a little deeper on the next few slides.
Okay, so I'm going to answer one of the burning questions is, what stories should I tell? And there are 4 key stories that every organization should tell. So the first one is the donor story, and you have the founder story, the purpose story, and the value story. Now, each one of these has a very different purpose and impact. And so I'm going to share with you some of the details. But what's great about this is you can create the story and then you can repurpose it throughout the year with your social media content, with your email and whatnot. And so I'll go into a little bit more about the strategy in a moment. But the first one is the donor story. The donor story feels connection because we want to build that momentum and connect with people emotionally on an emotional level so that inspires giving by highlighting the generosity and impact of other donors. Now, the way this works is if you have a donor that is just gangbusters and so excited and on fire for your organization, ask them if it's okay that you share their story. And so by doing that, you also share the impact that your organization has had on their life. So not only are you blessing the recipients that come into contact with your nonprofit, you're also blessing the givers And so we don't want to forget about that story. So that's the donor story. Okay. The next one is the founder story. This establishes credibility, builds trust and buy-in by sharing how and why your organization started and how it began. Maybe you're a really old one. Maybe you're 50 years old or more than that, or maybe you're a new one. Maybe you're a startup. It's so important to share the reason why you or the board or whomever started the organization, because what were you trying to fix? Clearly, there was a problem, you identified it, and then you came up with a solution. So the founder story is really important. So think about that one. The third one is your purpose story. You want to center your message around the problem that you are addressing. And so that in a byproduct creates urgency because we want to share that we need your help, but we need it now. And this is why our story matters. Okay, purpose story. And the final one is the value story. I remember some of the poll was you can't figure out how to communicate your impact to value. So this is where it happens is the value story. Show donors and partners, whether it's community, your staff, stakeholders, that their return on investment matters and what their support has made possible. So continue to share the transformations. And like Chris said, we don't always want to share outcomes, or maybe David said that, but we want to share the transformation. And remember, those moments in time, those are the transformations. That's when it takes place.
Before we get into our next set of slides, we want to ask another question. How consistent is your messaging across channels? And that means email, social media, anywhere that you're marketing currently, whether that's your website messaging, event invites. How consistent is your messaging across all of those channels? All right, give a few more seconds. Okay, so majority 51% said it's somewhat consistent, 44%, which is great, very consistent, and 5% not consistent. All right.
Well, that's a helpful poll. Thanks. I love doing these polls because it does help. But when I talk to nonprofit leaders truly across the country, the one thing I continuously hear over and over again is how difficult it is to become, and somebody said it earlier, right? To stand out, right? Or action. So if you're really sending a message and you're not standing out, and by the way, it's not just about fundraising, but it's about connecting with the people's hearts, their attention, in an increasingly noisy world that we all live in because everybody's bombarding us all the time, right? I see it myself every single day, but I'm hearing it from the industry as a whole. That's why each of the strategies we're covering really does matter. But first, developing a compelling and value, right, Haley? I mean, that's something that you said, that value proposition was so important. Every nonprofit has a mission, and we all know that. I think everybody has some level of mission, but not every nonprofit, and I hear this again, can clearly, I'll use a different word, but articulate, clearly communicate what matters right now, right? And the organizations that raise what we have seen, and we actually can track a lot of this too, raise the most money have learned to connect their cost to something immediate and personal for their donors. And I think that really resonates. And something that makes them say something like, I understand why this matters and I want you to be part of it, right? I mean, little things like that. Would you agree with that, Haley?
Absolutely. Yeah, I use this analogy. So there might be a nonprofit that's doing half the work that you are, but if they are better at communicating, articulating their story, they're going to get the donation. So that's why story and articulation is so important. So yeah, right on, David.
No, and I love it because you helped me lead to the next one, right? Mastering the art of a compelling story. I hear this word a lot these days, compelling. We talk about it, everybody's, what is a compelling story? And data does inform, its stories inspire, right? I mean, it's one thing to know the data, but truly a story truly can inspire. A donor might remember your mission statement once, but they'll never forget the story of one life your organization changed. And it just can be one life. I mean, we talk about that all the time. But storytelling transforms fundraising more from a transaction into a shaped purpose. And really that's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, David. And then, visual content here, leveraging visual content, a picture, a short video, or even like a single image with a powerful caption can do what words sometimes can't do, right? Especially on the social media side, you see that all the time, right? Helping people feel your mission through those visuals and cut through the noise and make your message more memorable. So don't forget to use visual content, and that can be everywhere, right? It can be in all of your constituent facing materials. I see people using it in thank yous, acknowledgements, even. So video thank yous, infographics like you see here, which we'll give you a link to for impact reports. Um, and then schedule and deliver targeted email campaigns that so that you're consistent in your timing, and don't create fatigue either by over communicating, which can happen, and then they leave your email list, for example, right? But you just can't send one email and expect results, right? The organizations that perform best plan their campaigns, they schedule everything strategically, they tailor their messages for different audiences, for a single campaign, so every donor, and thank yous too, and so every donor feels like you're speaking directly to them, right? Um, and you want to be consistent and strategic about all of your outreach. And I'm really excited about the next few slides where Haley's going to really give you a framework to work around to really take these broad brushes we're painting here and give you more specifics about executing this. But really, tailoring your emails and social media posts based on donor history and interest and geographic location. For example, first-time donors might receive a welcome and a thank you series of emails and communications, while long-term donors get updates on legacy projects that they've supported. So really making sure that the communication you're having with your constituents are targeted, like we keep talking about. And then use analytics to determine the best times to send those emails and posts. For example, the email sent on Tuesday mornings often see a lot more engagement rates than on a Monday morning or on a Friday. Gabby can give a lot more information to you on that. And have really specific calls to action when you are sending things out, right? Make sure that every email and post has a clear and direct next step, whether it's, hey, give now, or hey, share the story with others, or hey, join our volunteer team, whatever it is, right? But make sure that's clear and visible and obvious. And then measure and adjust, right? Make sure that you're tracking this information and you're tracking your open rates and your click-through rates on your emails and conversion rates to understand what resonates with your audiences and refine that approach, right, accordingly. They ultimately, donors just want to feel like their contributions matter, right? So, and like Haley just said, you got to clearly articulate that value proposition. So, David, I don't know if you want to close this out
No,
and
I'll
give
just
you.
add, I love all four, and I'm sure Haley, you could probably add a lot more into this. But I think one important thing that there's a lot of bullets here, but you really have to think about how you're going to combine, and I really mean combine these four elements because it is about clarity, it is about storytelling, it is about emotion, and it is about precision. And you can really build real connections by using all of this. And the connections is what's going to drive giving. I don't know, before we go to the next slide, Haley, if you had any thoughts on any of these things.
So the best time to send emails is on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday morning around 7 a.m. And I have experienced really great open rates during that time. And the other piece about segmenting and don't over, burden with the emails. If you're sending valuable information that genuinely interests the receiver, they will keep coming back and want more. And so one of my ideas for helping create some interest is, figure out who your folks are that are in finance. Maybe somebody's in HR. Segment those audiences and send them valuable information and tips occasionally without an ask. So that's maybe my 2 cents about email.
Hey, Haley, and I know we're trying to follow the time. One person just said 7 a.m. as a question mark.
Eastern,
Um,
yes.
And that's exactly what you said. And I'll share this with you. I love the fact that you would actually tell us the days and the times, which is great. We have a great marketing person here, and I think she follows that. Somebody also said Eastern time or Pacific time, 7
Mhm.
a.m. You may want to answer that one, right? That's a really, because we're on both coast side. Um,
Mhm,
I don't know if you want to address that at all.
mhm. Yeah, so wherever the majority of your email folks are, I would say 7 a.m. their time. If you can somehow segment the 4 time zones, by all means do it. But if you're able to do something uh, first thing in the morning, because what do we all do as soon as we wake up in the morning? We're looking at our phone.
Yeah, Gary.
Okay. So before we get busy with meetings and lunch, make sure that your email is the first one that pops into their inbox. And so, yeah, absolutely. It's important that you think about those kinds of strategies too.
I know with our software too, our marketing system, we can set it to send at 7 a.m. in everyone's time zone, and it'll take
Mm,
care of that for us, which is
there you
great.
go.
Yeah, that's awesome. And another little tidbit about email marketing, it has a 4,200% ROI, which means every dollar you put in, you're going to get 42 back. You do not have the same or even close to the same ROI with social media. And everybody's about social media, this and that. But here's the thing, that's great for brand awareness, but not everybody's on social media, but everybody has an email address. And so when you post something on a Tuesday and they're not on until Thursday, they might completely miss your message. So if you want conversion, the best way is to put your time and effort into an email list. And then I see Beth, she said, how often should we send? So I don't really have a rule of thumb. I have done lots of different case studies. Bottom line is if you're sending valuable information at the right time, and you track your data, your email open rates and your click-through rates, there really isn't a right or wrong, but even I would say twice a month, sometimes weekly. Obviously, you don't want to always tell them about the next event or another ask, but again, put yourself in their shoes and figure out what would make the most sense to provide value for them that they might not expect. All right, so we're going to get into the epic communication framework, which is so exciting because oftentimes we don't know where to start with a story, right? So I wrote a book, published it last July. It was on the bestseller list for several weeks, and it was in 3 nonprofit categories: marketing, communications, fundraising, and leadership, or fundraising grants, and then management and leadership. What this told me is that there is a simple communication framework that you can use and adopt for any platform, whether you're writing an email, a funding appeal, a social media post. And so the first letter of the acronym is E, and it stands for engage with a hook. Okay. Our whole point is to make sure that we hook them in those first few seconds so that they want to keep reading. Do you remember the story of Hansel and Gretel? How they left little breadcrumbs. This is exactly the strategy that you need to think about when you are writing a story. You want them to have enough curiosity and interest to keep reading the next line, and the next line, and the next line. So we're going to start every message with a bold, emotional, or thought-provoking line, whether that's a question or statistic. This is your attention grabber, and it's a clear pain or question. It's the truth that stops the scroll. When they open the email, they want to lean in. And so on the subject line, that's where the engage needs to go. Right there is in that subject line. All right. right, we already talked a little bit about persuading with a story. So once you have their attention, you want to build trust. So again, we're using a relatable character. We're using genuine emotion, specific details, a moment in time, and then that call to action. So we want to make sure, especially, that we are connecting with them in an empathetic way so that they understand that we get them and that there's a connection. Inspire with vision. Okay, so we've got the engage, got the persuade, and now we have inspire. So we want to share what that transformation has looked like with others that you have helped. And so when I was in ministry, we realized that people give to vision instead of need. So we really want to paint that inspiring vision of imagine what could happen with your support, and then showcase someone who has also been on the receiving end of your support. So you're going to paint a picture of what the future looks like that you want to create for your community, for your organization. And so remember to inspire with vision and don't use information. Let's focus on inspiration when we talk about inspire with vision. Okay, and the last one, obviously we got to close. We got to close with clear next steps, that call to action. End every message with just a simple next step. Might not be a big ask, but you know what? A lot of little yeses are more valuable than a big yes because we want to build trust over time. So make the next move obvious and make it easy. Here's the thing. When people come to your website, they need to know in like 3 seconds what it is you do, who you serve, and how they can help. So you need to have a couple buttons right up in that hero section of book an appointment and come for a tour, or get on the phone with one of our advocates and they'll talk you through. So make that next step very, very clear and easy for your audience. Okay, now the psychology, the best piece of this. Why does this work? Raw data informs, but it's not going to move people to act. Only story can do that. So when you wrap the data with the story, you're activating both the emotional and the rational side of decision making, because we first make decisions based on emotion and then we back it up with logic and facts. So we want to make sure that we're doing that in the right order. And also, did you know that stories are 22 times more likely to be memorable than facts alone? And that is neuroscience. That's simple biology. So when you lead with a person, and we'll show you an example of this, donors see themselves as part of that journey, not just as funders or fundraisers. We want to make sure that they feel like a change maker themselves. Okay. How many of you create something like this? Maybe it's your end of year campaign, or it is something to do with, capital campaign, anything throughout the year. So this is the worst form of storytelling I ever receive. I get these all the time in the mail. I get them on email, because here's the thing. When you take away the graphics and take away the color and any of the little boxes, you are going to see a bullet point of stats like this. Now, if you were to just read those stats, does that make any sense to you? No. So what we do is we create a narrative and build those stats into that story. And so with my Epic Impact operating system, I've created, it's like an app, and I can copy all the bullet points and put them into my app and say, write a story about Maria using all of these statistics. So here's the engaged. You tell me what you think. When Maria first came to us, she was scared and exhausted, juggling diabetes, caring for her 2 kids, and holding a bag of prescriptions she couldn't afford. That one first sentence, now tell me, would you want to keep reading the rest? She's one of the 677 patients who received care this year, thanks to supporters like you. Okay, we've already got them hooked with that first couple sentences. Persuade. Through our wellness initiative, Maria's life began to change. She received affordable medication. Then again, you see all of the data there, but it's sandwiched between the narrative. So it gives the story context. It tells us why we should care. And then the final two pieces are the inspire and then the close. So we could go on to the next one, Gabby, the last part of the story, inspire. So today, Maria is thriving. Her health is stable. Her confidence has returned. And again, we've got the volunteers, we've got the service hours. Um, this is where we help paint the vision of what our organization is hoping to achieve, where she helps other families discover fresh foods and fresh hope. In the close, because of generous donors, we've received this amount of money. And then at the bottom, we have Give Today to help more patients like Maria find hope, healing, hope, and health. All right. Now, I don't want to just rewrite a story and say, it sounds better, right? I want to show you why it sounds better. So I can create a table within my Epic operating system, and I have the original version, I have the Epic version, I have the psychological trigger of what that actually does to our brain, and then I have the conversion impact. So for instance, the Engage was initially 677 patients received services. The Epic version turns it into Maria was scared and exhausted, juggling diabetes and two kids. That psychological trigger evokes empathy and vivid relatability. And that conversion impact is that it turns those stats into a human story and that information into inspiration. So I like the data too.
All right. And then we have one more poll for you. We're going to talk a little bit about segmentation now, but we would like to know how many of you are currently segmenting your audiences in your marketing and communications. So you can say yes all the time, sometimes, never. Never, we'd like to, but it's too difficult. All right. Some more answers coming in. Give it a second. All right, so going ahead and looking at the results. So 64% of you say sometimes, 13% say never, we'd like to, but it's too difficult. 12% say yes all the time, and 10% say never.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right. Thank you so much, Haley, for discussing your framework. That's super. It's crazy. If you're interested in seeing more of that, you should contact Haley because she's created quite an interesting application that can really tease out specific communications that are amazing. So that's great stuff. But really, to put a finer point on what Haley was talking about, really, and taking that tailored approach to messaging. Dave and I have a more specific kind of things we can talk about here with regards. But what Dave and I are talking to nonprofit leaders every week across the country, and one of the biggest things that we hear is how hard it is for these organizations to stand out, amongst all the nonprofits. And part of the problem in those statistics we gave at the beginning of this discussion there are more nonprofits out there. So not only are there fewer individuals giving overall, so there's more competition there, but there are more nonprofits overall too than there were 10 years ago. So that need to stand out is incredibly important. And but we're also going to tell you why we think it's happening. I mean, the truth is the landscape has shifted, like we just talked about. But donors are feeling overwhelmed and fatigued for many different reasons in our world today. They're seeing lots of causes, messages, requests for donations every week. In their inbox, on their phone. And it's not that they don't care, it's just they don't always know where to focus their attention, who to trust, or if their contribution will have an impact, right? And many organizations are still sending out that same broad message to all of their constituents in the same way that worked for them, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I know, David, you should expand on that too.
Well, I would have asked you the question, what can I do to change this, Chris? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to meet donors where they are. I think that's part of the answer. And the message, again, I know we're reiterating a lot, but it is important. The messages have to be very clear. They have to be relevant. They have to be personal. And that's where today's first strategy comes in, tailoring your message to different donor segments. Again, it just goes back to saying one size does not fit all. Personalization drives performance. Every donor wants to feel seen, valued, understood. I mean, I'm an individual, and I talk about this a lot, even within our own company. When you're sending out emails, when you send it to a group, it doesn't have the same impact. So again, and you miss the opportunity. You really do. So when you're really looking at this, you know, doing the right, sending the right messages now are the ones that speak differently to each group, to each person, to each supporter. I mean, it really has to be focused and personal because each relationship that you have is different. And we talk a lot about that.
Yeah. Um,
I don't know, Chris, maybe you want to touch upon like, the precision targeting and things of that sort, or
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I know, Gabby, you're probably trying to get through these slides. I'll do real quickly. Um, there are absolutely precision targeting is important, like we've just discussed, and like we said, the biggest mistake organizations make is just trying to speak to everyone in the same way, right? But the reality is, I mean, your best owners do share common traits, and you can use your existing data as well as data outside of your database that you can integrate with your database. Like we have a relationship with Donor Search, right? And they're using prospect research information from generally available databases, but they're also using AI now to pinpoint who's most likely to give to your organization based off of their behavior, based off of their buying habits, based on their demographics, their capacity to give, and they can provide additional scoring to your constituents so that you can, instead of asking someone who's been giving you $20 a year for another 20 bucks when they're capable of giving you 20,000, you can do that and you can create a deeper relationship with those specific people to try and land larger donations. So sometimes using data within and outside of your database that you currently have your constituents can help you be more precise in that targeting, right? Um, but your donor database is one of your most valuable assets, and it's going to tell you where you're winning and where you're losing your donors, and analyzing that data, giving history, retention rates. You can uncover actionable insights right from all of that. So really, you also want to think about segmenting beyond just the basics of you know RFM, recency, frequency, size. Too many organizations stop at segmenting by gift size, but the real power comes in when you lay in other factors like generational giving. What's their age? What are their communication preferences? Sometimes that is generational, sometimes it's not. What type of relationship do you have with them? What's their motivation for giving? For example, Gen Z may respond best to SMS texts outreach, and boomers prefer direct mail. It just so you really have to be thoughtful about that too. We can get on to the next slide, Gabby.
yeah, Gabby, and I'll go through this. I know there's a lot of different types of donors, but I'm just going to focus on the three, right? You've got your major donors, and when you have a major donor, maybe you do something differently, but you've got to make it personal. I really do believe in this. Making a short call. I mean, believe it or not, to me, a call is more impactful almost than anything else in this. Handwritten notes are amazing. I mean, I literally still see handwritten notes even when we give donations. And when they're handwritten, and I know they're not fake, it's truly genuine. Especially from
Yeah.
leadership, it can be more powerful than just a normal email blast. And I know we've talked about that too. But again, go back and talk about the strategic impact, the legacy, outcomes that it's really providing, things that connect to their values. I mean, you really got to know your audience and individual audience. And, even in our systems, you can put specific notes in when you're speaking to individual people because maybe you learned something from that. On the reoccurring donors, this is a chance to express true, genuine gratitude. Uh, I'm not saying the others are not loyal, but this group is probably your most loyal supporters. Thanking them for their steady commitment, showing them, the cumulative impact that they've had. Offer easy ways to even deeper their support. When you're speaking to them, maybe a simple end of year, option. I mean, there's so many other ideas, and if you ever want to talk about this, I love sharing all of these different ideas. And even first-time donors. I mean, this is a really big thing when you think about that stats. First-time donors are only 19%. Help them feel part of your story, right? Go back to
Yeah.
that story, reintroduce them to the mission, show quick results. You use welcome language. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't know, something that says like, "We're so glad you joined us, and here's what your first gift already made possible." And then invite them someplace. I mean, there's a lot more to this, but maybe you want to give them a tour of your facility or something. But provide that. And Haley, you said it a few times. That call to action. Have a call to action.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you brought up recurring donors, David, because that was one of the bright lights in the Giving USA report was that recurring donors are up. It's a great way to keep that annuity stream. You do have to put some thought into your recurring donor program. You don't just want to throw a recurring donation, form on your website and hope they're all going to show up. You got to draw people to it, and churn rates, retention rates on recurring donors is not great either. So you have to keep them engaged. But I love that. So it's a great idea. And then lapsed donors too, right? I see a lot of our clients, the going after lapsed owners seems like an afterthought sometimes, but really that could be a gold mine for you. You do have to have the right messaging though, of course, like we talk about. You got to lead with empathy. You got to remind donors of the difference they made in the past and invite them to reengage in some simple way. Sometimes it's not about asking for a big gifts. Sometimes it's just don't make an ask. Just try and reopen that relationship with your lapsed owners before making an ask. And if you do that well, and you tailor your messaging with intention, you'll start shifting and to those people from lapsed donors to donors, right? And that connection is what changes everything. So that's the challenge and the opportunity for every organization on this call, right? Move from those broad appeals to meaningful conversations, right? That's how you cut through the noise and build something that lasts.
Thanks, Chris. And I see a lot of questions coming in. We are going to get to every single question at the end of the session, so make sure you stay on for that. Really quickly, we would like to know how many solutions are you using to manage donor activity? This can include donations, pledges, recurring giving, peer-to-peer team fundraising, email marketing systems, things like that. Events, if you have an event ticketing system or management system, volunteers, grants, memberships, all together. Best guess, how many would that be? Okay, give a few more seconds to get a lot of people answering. All right, so looking at the results, majority, 33% of you are using 5 or more. 22% are using 2 or 3. 14% are using 1, and 8% are using 4. And then as a follow-up, we would like to know from those different solutions, if you are using more than one, do you have to move data around to get it into one centralized location to be able to report on? And is that time consuming for you or your staff? Um, can we give a few more seconds? All right, so 54% of you said yes, that you're moving that data around and it's time consuming. 33% no, and 13% are not sure.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, well, David and I, like I said, we talk to organizations every week. We find about on average what David about clients seem to have about 4 different databases typically they're managing with their constituents in it that we're talking to, and usually when they come to us, they can get that into one database, which is the goal, right? I mean, to bring all those separate solutions together in one place is going to help you immensely to do exactly what we've been talking about throughout this webinar, right? Which is understand who your constituents are, who your donors are, and really communicate with them effectively, right? It can also make you more efficient, though, too, as an organization, having all that database in one place. We're not wasting time. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of our clients calling us trying to cobble together email lists for their year-end campaigns. You don't have to do that anymore. You can eliminate all that duplicate data entry. And then you can also use automation and workflows and have all of your constituent-facing forms on your website integrated into your database, like with our platform. So those recurring donations, gifts, uh, volunteer submissions, event ticket purchases can all just flow directly into that database. You don't have to spend all that time trying to manage that and get it in, right? And then get to having those acknowledgments automated and targeted, all that. Is incredibly important to have the right technology to do that and to execute that and to be as efficient as possible in this competitive marketplace that you exist in, unfortunately, right? Um, so really, automate when possible with your technology and have everything in one place. Make it easy to give, with built-in donation pages. Peer-to-peer giving is a huge one. We can, if you want to talk about that, we have a fully integrated peer-to-peer fundraising platform as well as team fundraising. Um, and also engage in everywhere as much as you can, right? Through email, social media, text messaging, and hopefully you can do that through your database, like you can with ours, right? And then keep those donors engaged through personalized communication. Know who your donors are. These are all things we've talked about already. Offer recurring giving and make it easy for you to manage, but also for the client. Um, and then track that participation in their events and their volunteering and the campaigns that they're involved with so that you understand that when you're communicating with them, right? And then show appreciation and strength, keep those relationships strong, right? Through sending instant and timely acknowledgments and personalized thank you messages like David mentioned earlier, segmenting those donors by type and size so that you are making sure they get personalized acknowledgments, sharing your impact stories, celebrating contributions, track those major gifts and milestones so you can recognize and appreciate them appropriately, right? And having everything in one system, it's going to make it a lot easier for you. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. I just want to tell you a little bit more about Ariva. We've been around serving exclusively the nonprofit industry for over 35 years. We have over 6,000 clients all across the world, really, mostly nationally, but we do have organizations all over the world. We have done over 30,000 live virtual and hybrid event scales and fundraisers with our software. Our software was built exclusively for nonprofit organizations, unlike some of the other solutions out there. And as you can see, we've been vetted and approved by many national partners, as you can see here, such as Ronald McDonald House Charities, Variety, Boys and Girls Clubs, etc. And the
Yeah,
challenges, yeah, I mean, we've talked
yeah.
about this. Go ahead, David. You say
No, no, I didn't mean to interrupt. Finish.
no, no.
Um,
You go. It's all you.
no, all I was going to say on this slide is it was almost 90% of everybody here had multiple systems. And unless you're not
Mhm.
communicating or you're communicating out of one, I don't know how you're doing it. But I think the challenge is there's a lot of software that's out there, and I think there's a lot of good software out here. I'm not here to knock anybody's software, but you've got a lot of challenges. If you are moving data, that is time consuming. You're taking away and doing administrative tasks. We've seen it statistically where you would hire a development director and where you've hired them for 100% of fundraising and development, they're probably spending 40 or 45%, believe it or not, on administrative tasks. The other thing is when they are doing this, you're not responding to your clients as fast as you would like to, the donors. I mean, and this is a challenge. The communication isn't always consistent, and this is another challenge. And when you really think about all these different challenges, you can see the results by the decline in donor acquisition, the decline in retention, and how fast are you really getting acknowledgement out there? And I know a lot of people are looking for that all-in-one solution. And when we talk about an all-in-one solution, I mean truly where whether they give a constituent gives a donation, registers for an event, does an SMS text donation, participates in peer-to-peer or team fundraising, all of that relevant information instantaneously should go into one system, automatically should send out a custom thank you acknowledgement receipt, even though it's an automated thing, they're still getting something, and then sending a notification to the staff, and then segmenting out if it's over 1,000, this person in leadership should call them. That is a combination. When you talk about multiple ways of doing it, a system should allow you to have multiple ways, and this will help increase your donor acquisition, increase your donor retention, and obviously and I don't mean it obviously, give you fast acknowledgement. Because if you're not responding statistically within 48 to 72 hours, that positiveness will turn into a negative, and that's what's happening out there. And just to go quickly so we can get to questions, Gabby,
Yeah.
Ariva does provide, and there's a lot of solutions that Ariva really does provide, but one message here is it's an all-in-one solution. They don't have to buy all these applications. We built this over time, knowing what the industry wants, but it is fully integrated with one unified database. And if you want to learn more, there's a lot there, and there's a lot of great services. And I will share this with you. We're very proud of the rewards. But one thing that's important is we have over a 95% retention rate, and that speaks volumes in this industry.
Yeah.
We can go to questions, Gab.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a poll up on your screen now. If you would like to have a one-on-one consultation and demo of Ariva software, go ahead and hit yes, and we'll make sure we pass that information along to the right team to get in touch with you after the webinar.
I want to say thank you so much for partnering with Ariva. I've just been really impressed with their team and the communication and their professionalism. So definitely give them a shout if you need any support in that area. I put a few links in where you can download. I have a 5-part fundraising digital course, and you can access that from my website. And then also, I put in there a little bit of Epic, but if you go to epicimpact.ai, you can either schedule a demo or you can download the free fundraising flat bill course.
Thanks, Haley. I will go ahead and put a poll up on the screen as well. So if you would like to have us put you in contact with Haley, learn more about the Epic Communication Framework, go ahead and hit yes, and we'll make sure she gets all that information. Or you can head to her website, like she said. All right, so I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen because we have a lot of great questions that have come in. So I will go ahead and let me pull those up. All right. A lot of them. Okay, so when we were going over some different marketing message, someone brought up, how concise should a marketing message be? What is too much to give someone to read? Do you have any insights on that?
So, as in how much data is too much to read? So, I'm guessing. So, one thing I did mention in one of the chats was if you have a large story, like say you have a whole page, we understand people have the attention span of a gnat these days. However, like I said, if you create a sequence and you break that story into chunks, and it's called a soap opera sequence. So you always want to leave them with a cliffhanger, and a PS is actually the most read piece on any kind of message. So you want to say tomorrow or next time, I'll tell you about X, Y, and Z. So I actually did this with Ronald McDonald House as we built momentum into Giving Tuesday. We actually used the 4 stories, but then we just broke them up into smaller segments, and that's the piece that we sent every week. And then we could also repurpose that same information to social media and donor appeals, other things. So you all already have the content. You just need to figure out how to repurpose it.
But your software does that, Haley.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It'll create your brand story. And I'm working with foundations that serve hundreds of nonprofits. They're so excited about it. So the reason why I want to help our mission-driven organizations. They need all the help we can give them, and I have utmost respect for them. So.
And Haley actually let us graciously, she let us use the Epic AI for the purposes of this webinar. So we were able to play around in that, and some of the emails that you received were generated from that, or some subject lines and beginning texts and things. So I love it. I think it's fabulous. Okay, this question, where do you begin to identify your target donorship and how do you make your initial contact? So this question came up, Chris, I think during the segmentation piece when you were describing how do you identify your target demographic.
I see. Gotcha. Okay. And can you read that question again?
Yeah. So how do you begin to identify who your
Okay.
target demographic is and
Hmm.
what's the best way to make that initial contact?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you could definitely, reverse engineer that through looking at your own data, right? And looking at who's giving to your organization through all those different lenses we talked about, generationally, et cetera. And sometimes people don't have all that information. I just did an age append for a client who didn't have necessarily couldn't generationally break down their donors. So there are services out there where you can take your lists of donors or constituents and give them to a company that will append information, emails, ages, etc., so that they can get that more detailed information and break them down in that way. Um, but I don't know, David and Haley, I don't know if you want to have any more information about that, but you could start with using your existing data and the information you have on your donors to find out who is giving to your organization, and then also examine a little more closely who you think are other target markets. I mean, Gabby, you're doing that all the time for us, right? Who are our target? Who's our target market? Who are the customers we think are a best fit for us? And going after those markets, right? You have to do the same thing for your nonprofit organization as well, which I assume can differ depending on what your mission is, right?
Idea that I've used before. So we're talking a little about segmenting the audience is providing value for them instead of always an ask. And so like I'll just use the example of finance. If there's maybe 20 of your donors are in finance, ask one of them to host a house party, and then they invite a lot of their others from the network that might also be interested in number one that career or also in donating or being a part of your organization. And so think about out of the box ways to help grow your network, but also at the same time providing value to the donors that are already supporting you. So that's just one way.
There were also some comments and questions going back and forth about phone calls. We had some people in the chat who say that phone calls are personalized, they're very focused, but then we had
Yeah.
other people saying that they're less popular for younger
Mm.
generations. What are your thoughts around phone calls?
Mm. Yeah, that's true. I mean, communication preferences do differ generationally, but also personally. We have an ability in our database to track communication preferences by household and by person for that very reason. But in general, this is very speaking generally, of course, older generations, which I'm a part of, baby boomers, Gen X, I'm a Gen X, they tend to prefer more traditional outreach and communication like phone calls as a primary form of communication. I mean, my kids give me grief all the time when I text them and they, Dad, you text me like you're writing a letter. That's that's how I do it. Sorry. So obviously we differ generationally, but younger generations, they're mobile first, right? They want non-intrusive communication, like through texting, SMS, social media, TikTok, whatever, YouTube Shorts. So absolutely, you can modulate your communications based off things generationally, and that's why you should have a multi-channel strategy in general, right? And although I do have a client who just ran a phone-a-thon, and they didn't care about breaking down things generationally. They're like, we're going to call everybody. We tend to people who give will give. So I think it depends on the kind of campaign and outreach you're doing. But I'm sure David and Haley, you can give your 2 cents.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Haley, please.
Yeah, so when I look at the different generations, and I think I actually answered this in the chat, You know, the texting and the DMs for the younger crowd, definitely. Um, and then, of course, the baby boomers still enjoy paper mail. I don't so much. So I am, what am I? Gen X or one of them. But anyways, I enjoy email because it's not more junk I got to go through, process, and throw away. I can easily file it. So just ask your donors how they prefer to receive information. And then that's an easy way to connect with them and just, give them a call up and say, hey, thank you for your donation. How can we serve you? What can we do for you? Just make sure that you're always putting yourself in their shoes and always ask and figure out how you can provide value for them because they will be a lifer if they know that you appreciate them so much for all that they do.
Thanks, Haley. I also put in the chat now, we did a great webinar in the fall on generational giving, and it covers every generation from boomers to Gen Z, communication preferences, ideas for outreach. So definitely go ahead and take a look at that. There's some great information in there as well. Another question came up in the chat. How often do you send a thank you beyond a receipt to recurring donors? I have some that just don't want to receive an acknowledgement every month.
Is that acknowledgement an email, an automatic thank you? Is that what they're saying?
I think it's an automatic thank you that goes out to a recurring donor every
Yeah.
month.
Yeah.
First of all, I will share this with you. To know that is great. And even on our donation forms,
Mhm.
we have, and you can set it up any way you want. So it's not one size fits all either. But you have the ability when you're having a donation and an individual is gone there, they can say, only contact me by SMS, only contact me by email. So if you don't have that, that will help you. That's the first thing. If they are saying don't do that, then put it in your notes and just make sure that your database can segment them out when you're doing certain things. I do think picking up a phone call and just saying, hey, we received your donation. I want to thank you if they don't want to receive these automatically. So maybe you schedule them every quarter of something like that. And then in between that, you just say, hey, I just saw that you gave another donation. I just wanted to thank you. We appreciate that. And by the way, if you want to learn more from personalization, that's the place. You don't have to ask them all the questions, but you could say anything from, oh, when's your birthday? I didn't have it here. Or, and then you can put a note in, remind on your birthday. And it's another way of building relationships over time by asking other things. So I think I think there's a lot of different ways of acknowledging them as opposed to just the one way of sending an automatic thank you or just sending a thank you that way. You just have to know, now that you know what they want, I think you're better prepared on how to respond to them. And don't take it literally either, where they say, please don't send me an automatic thank you every single time. Okay, but pick up the phone and say, hey, I received that. We won't. Do you mind if I just call you periodically? Sure. Can I call you, once every, it depends again. Are they a major donor? Are they a first-time donor? Who are they? And the more that you learn about each individual, you're personalizing what they're asking you. It also gives you another time to continue storytelling with them, sharing the impact, what their donation did continuously. So there's a lot of different ways of doing that. But Haley, you're very good at this too. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, she had a great response in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, mix it up. And I can't emphasize how important it is to learn their birthday. They will be just blown over if you are the one reaching out to say happy birthday. Send a handwritten card. There is nothing that beats a handwritten card because it takes all of 5 minutes, but yet it is so meaningful because it's so rare. I still have thank you notes with my stationery, my logo on it, and it's professional and it's appreciated. And so that's one thing that I do. Take them to coffee once a quarter or twice a year. Do something that spending time with them will mean more to them rather than a thank you note. So if you've got somebody who's just been a great supporter, think outside the box and do something different and surprise them. Again, it doesn't take a lot of money, doesn't take a lot of time or effort, but it's those little touches that will make a big difference when they come to Giving Tuesday next time and they're choosing between 5 other nonprofits. Who do you think they're going to remember? Somebody who really paid them attention and was able to make them feel special. So, yeah.
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 You said it really well, Haley, in the comments. Some want quiet consistency, others want to feel like heroes. So you just have to somehow track that, right? So that you know to exclude them in certain communications and include them in others. And that's, I see in our clients' databases all the time. They tag them with specific mailing tags. Hey, newsletter only, or newsletter and birthday only, or whatever it is, so that they can make sure that when they're doing those mailings and pulling those lists, they can easily exclude or include the groups that they want uh, for those communications. Yeah.
Thanks. Last question here, because I know we're over time. My special education private school is very small, and we are just beginning our fundraising efforts. I wonder if we are too small for you, Ariba, and would your cost be too high for us?
Well, I'll take that. I'm very proud of the way that we priced our software, to be honest with you. I know there's a lot of different softwares out there, and some are very expensive, and they don't want to deal with the smaller organizations for whatever reason. We don't care. We have priced our software to help the smallest, whether, and we do have we have grassroots organization that literally had no donors, but were committed to building this foundation, and they wanted to start. And the nice thing on our software is you don't have to start with everything. You could start with the donation page, which is unlimited donation pages and email communications and a donor relationship management database and one application. And if you're under 1,000 records, it's like under $2,000 annualized. I mean, we have priced this for the smallest organizations. We've priced this for medium organizations, and we really care about this industry. And when we say we're a socially driven company, we truly are, and we're here to help everybody. And this is what our beliefs are. We're not here just to sell software either. We take a lot of pride in all the things that we do to provide a lot of different, not paid services. Today, a great educational webinar. We do private educational webinars. We have a client success team that is a very proactive team assigned to every single client that we have. You are very important to us if you are an Ariba client. We have an amazing support team. I will tell you, to me, it's second to none. Early on in our company, we built what I'll call a true inside out ticketing system. So you're not sending an email to just a support group. It is a full ticketing system. We see every ticket that comes in. We see who within our company pulls the ticket. We see how long it took them to respond. And at the end of the day, if a ticket wasn't pulled for whatever reason, it does happen. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't. We have a senior vice president overlooking support that will pull that ticket and at least respond. We take a lot of pride in this. These are really everybody, every client, no matter what size they are, we treat equally. And I just want to share that with you. So if you want to see a demo and we understand it, the other nice thing is when you're that small, maybe you're not doing team fundraising today, but to know that you can have a product and integrate it later on in the future, just with a turning of a key, right? You don't have to do a full implementation again. The system grows with you as well. So let us know how we can help.
Thanks, David. I'll go ahead and put up a poll, but there was one other comment that came through when we were asking about different solutions. There was some curiosity and a bit of surprise that you can use one solution, and there was some people asking, what is a solution that you could do everything all in one for?
Say, that's a question, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
someone asked, what is a solution that you could eliminate all these other
Okay.
siloed and only use one?
That's a Riva.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if you're using like an Eventbrite, right, and it's a standalone, if you're using an auction platform, if you're using an individual grant management, if you're using a campaign management product, if you're using a team fundraising, a peer-to-peer, an SMS texting donation platform, I know I'm missing an email communication platform. This is when we were looking at it, it was 33% of using five or more applications. It was almost 90%. Um, Ariba provides all of those applications and more. I know I missed a few, but we have a lot of applications that we do provide. And again, it's fully one solution, one unified database, and it's all automated, meaning any transaction that any constituent does goes directly into the donor relationship management database, automatically sends a custom thank you acknowledgement receipt, and sends the staff a notification. So it is a true all-in-one solution. It's not where you have a donor relationship management database and then you got to buy a separate application for events or auctions or campaigns and then move data around into one database. It's a nightmare. We solved that problem. We truly solved that problem.
And then follow-up question, do you have data storage in Canada?
Yeah, we have clients in Canada. Yes.
Awesome. All right. Oh, do you handle events and auctions?
We do, not only do we handle events and auctions, we even have a staffing company that provides all the staffing services that you would need, whether it's support staffing, management staffing. We provide the event registration, the event management. Some of our software provides raffle tickets. It provides live bidding, silent bidding. It does it right off the phone. It's very cool. It's called text to bid. You can I call it selling real estate. If you're doing sponsorships, you could have sponsors and above the sponsorship levels that you're providing, it's another source for them to get more exposure in the bidding process. We have the ability to build, we build websites for the company, but we also have websites for the auction software. So they can register online, you can schedule tables, you can sell the items, you can show your sponsors, the day of the registration. If they didn't register yet and they wanted to walk in, you can register them as they walk in. We process all the winners of the silent bidding items, so we can process them right out when they're walking out the door very fast. We do very small auctions to some of the largest auctions in the country. And again, all of that is integrated into our core software, which we call Exceed Further.
You hit the nail on
I
the
love
head
these
because
questions.
follow-up question, yeah, that all links to our
Gabby,
database.
I don't know if you're doing a really good marketing job here and giving me these questions and setting me up, but if I really do appreciate the questions. This is great.
Yes. And then just to clarify, David, all that event and auction data, it then links back to the database as well.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Awesome. If you would like to learn more about Exceed Further or Riva, please go ahead and hit that yes on the poll up in front of your screen, and we can answer any more questions that you might have. We are over time, so thank you all for sticking around. This was a great Q&A session, and then I'll turn it over to our panelists for any final words.
Well, I'll just say, first of all, I want to thank Haley. If you haven't learned about Epic, I have talked to so many consultants out there. I think it is truly one of the best products that are out there today. She has spent an enormous amount of thought and looking at the problems in the industry and how to solve the problems. And I will tell you, we've been doing this a long time. A lot more people are doing storytelling than ever before. She's cornered the market on this. And I truly love and I appreciate it because I can actually say that because I'm not just saying that. I love to use products and Gabby is a testament because she did give us the product. And I'm not just saying that. If I didn't like it, Haley, I wouldn't even have you on the show, right? But it is truly good and you should try it. It really is great. I want to thank, first of all, Haley. Thank you so much for your knowledge and participation. Chris, I always want to thank you. You have so much deep knowledge, and we really appreciate you spending the time. And Gabby is just absolutely amazing because she coordinates all this. But more importantly, I want to thank each and every one of you that are still here for all the work that you do each and every day. We know it is not easy. We know you have more challenges than most, and across the board, it doesn't matter whether it's acquisition or retention or acknowledgement or the limited time that you have, the limited staff that you have. There's all sorts of challenges, and we do appreciate that. And anything that we can help. I mean, you don't have to buy our software. We do great guidelines and great things to help just the industry. Go to our website, go learn anything that we can help you with. Just give us a call. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, David and Chris, for having me, and Gabby for her excellent coordination of everything for the last couple of weeks. And it's really an honor. And I echo what David said. We just give you a lot of respect for the roles that you're in. We know that you're overwhelmed at times and you're maybe underpaid and sometimes undervalued. And I get that because I have been a nonprofit employee and I've also owned one in the past. So you're doing important work out there and we appreciate you more than you know. I have lots of free resources. You can access them at epicimpact.ai. There's a free 5 video course on fundraising. So if there's anything I can do to help you, please reach out. Thanks again.
Thanks, Gabby, for coordinating all this. Thanks, Haley and David.
Thank you, everyone. You will be receiving a recording afterwards and a follow-up email that'll come from my name, Gabriela Salemi. And so, yeah, and we hope to see you on our next Ariva webinar. Thank you for being here and make it a great day.